Welcome to Failed Utopia, the podcast about utopian ideas and paradise lost. We look at utopian concepts of the past, present, and future, as well as utopian communities and cults, which promise the world to eager followers, but inevitably fail when it all starts to unravel. Hey, Failed Utopians, welcome back to yet another Theranos update in the long and drawn-out saga. Yes, I know it's been a lot. If you need a refresher, I don't blame you. I'll put a link to the past episode and update down in the show notes. So the big update and the reason I'm making this bonus episode is that just a few days ago, Elizabeth Holmes was finally sentenced. Remember, she was convicted several months ago on 4 fraud charges and faced a possible 20-year prison sentence. Ultimately, she was sentenced to 135 months in prison, which is 11 years and 3 months. So this is sort of a mixed result. Given the seriousness of her crimes, I'm not surprised that she's received a fairly substantial sentence. On the other hand, 11 years does fall far short of the potential 20 years she could have received. We've also learned that in addition to the one young son that Elizabeth Holmes shares with her husband, she's also currently pregnant with a second child. So sadly, her 2 children do face the prospect of the first decade or so of their lives with an incarcerated parent, which we know is difficult on children who, of course, are completely innocent and end up paying a price for their parents' crimes. And if Elizabeth Holmes begins serving her sentence soon as expected, she will be giving birth to her second child while incarcerated. This may be the reason the judge who sentenced Elizabeth is recommending that she serve her sentence at a prison camp in Texas, which is a low-security women's facility with work programs, lots of enrichment, and a family program specifically focused on imprisoned parents' relationships with their kids. It's up to the Bureau of Prisons to decide where she ends up serving her sentence, but she has to be checked into a facility by the end of April. But there is more to this story. While the sentence has been handed down, Elizabeth's defense team has said that they will appeal the sentence. What the defense team had asked for was no more than 18 months in prison. In fact, they claimed house arrest and community service would be sufficient. Yeah, they really said that. But anyway, that appeal needs to happen within 2 weeks of the sentencing date, which was on November 18th. Plus, it still remains to be decided how much money Elizabeth Holmes needs to repay to investors. Prosecutors initially asked for over $800 million. But I don't see how she's supposed to come up with that kind of money, given that her net worth dropped from $4.5 billion to zero when Theranos went under. And there is another big update in the case. Earlier this year, in July, Sunny Balwani, Theranos' chief operating officer and former boyfriend to Elizabeth Holmes, was convicted in a separate trial. He faced the exact same charges as Elizabeth Holmes, plus 1. Remember, the 2 were initially charged together, but when Elizabeth Holmes indicated that she would accuse Sunny Balwani of abuse in their intimate relationship and use that as part of her defense, the trial was split into 2 separate proceedings. So Balwani also faced a potential sentence of 20 years on 12 fraud and conspiracy charges, and he was convicted on all 12. I found this very surprising, given that Elizabeth Holmes herself was convicted on only 4 charges. Holmes did seem to make the argument that she was impressionable and controlled by Balwani. But Balwani was the chief operating officer. Elizabeth Holmes was the CEO and founder. Theranos was the Elizabeth Holmes show. I'm willing to believe that Elizabeth Holmes may have been influenced by Balwani, but I don't think I'm willing to buy that Balwani was somehow 3 times more culpable than Elizabeth Holmes in Theranos' defrauding of investors and patients. and I'm not sure what accounts for the vastly different outcomes in the two separate trials. Sunny Balwani's sentencing is coming up next month, and I think we have to assume that since he was convicted on all 12 counts, he may face the maximum possible sentence of 20 years, or at least a greater sentence than the 11.25 years given to Elizabeth Holmes. And of course, it's probably likely that Balwani's team also will choose to appeal whatever sentence he's given. So the upshot is that the Theranos saga is still far from over. I think we'll be hearing more about both of these sentencing appeals by early next year, and I'll keep you all posted. See you soon. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow and leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to help other people find it. Tell your friends about it, and if you want to support the pod directly and help keep new episodes coming, you can donate to the show through the link at the bottom of the show notes. Connect and stay in the loop on the website failedutopia.com or the Facebook page at Failed Utopia Pod. Failed Utopia episodes are written and produced by me, Anna Roberts. The burning palm tree painting featured on the cover is by artist Perry Vasquez. My intro music is by Elliot Middleton. See you next time.